Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone.
The year was 1347. A merchant ship docked at the Sicilian port of Messina, its crew weary, its hull weighed down with goods from the distant lands of the east. But something far more sinister lurked within its wooden belly. Rats, their black bodies scurrying in the shadows, carried with them a deadly cargo, one that would bring untold suffering to the people of Europe. Their fleas, infected with the lethal bacterium Yersinia pestis, would soon unleash a calamity so vast, so unimaginable, that would reshape the very fabric of human civilization. This was the dawn of the Black Death, the most devastating pandemic in human history. By the time the plague had run its course, it had annihilated nearly half the population of Europe, leaving entire villages empty, cities crumbling under the weight of their dead, and a society struggling to comprehend the wrath of a seemingly vengeful god. The world that emerged from the ashes of this catastrophe was profoundly different from the one that had existed before. The medieval order, rooted in feudal bonds and unwavering religious faith, found itself irreversibly altered. The pandemic was not merely a disease. It was a reckoning, a force that would shape history in ways unforeseen by those who lived through its horrors. But where did this terrible affliction originate? And how did it spread with such ferocity? To understand the full scale of the Black Death, we must journey back to the vast plains of Central Asia, where the bacterium Yersinia pestis had long lurked in the bodies of wild rodents. It was here, in the Mongolian steppes, that the plague first took root. Nomadic traders traveling the Silk Road carried the infection westward, unwittingly setting in motion a chain of events that would decimate Europe. As the disease spread, it found its way to the bustling ports of the Mediterranean, brought by Genoese merchants fleeing from a Mongol siege in the Crimean city of Kaffa. The Mongols, having suffered their own losses from mysterious illness, turned it into a weapon of war, launching the bodies of their infected soldiers over the city walls. This act of biological warfare ensured that the plague would find its way into the ships of fleeing traders. By the time these vessels reached the Italian coastline, their decks were littered with corpses, their crews writhing in agony, afflicted with fever, swelling buboes, and the stench of imminent death. From Italy, the pestilence moved like wildfire, spreading along trade routes and through the dense, unsanitary cities of medieval Europe. It struck with merciless speed, showing no regard for class or status. The rich, secluded in their grand estates, fell as swiftly as the poor who lived in the filth-ridden streets. Physicians, priests, and apothecaries alike stood powerless before this invisible adversary. The afflicted first experienced a fever, followed by the swelling of lymph nodes in the groin, armpits, and neck. These buboes, blackened with pus and blood, gave the disease its terrifying name. As the days passed, victims succumbed to relentless vomiting, respiratory failure, and ultimately, an agonizing death. The psychological impact of the plague was as devastating as the disease itself. Families abandoned their loved ones in a desperate attempt to escape infection. The clergy, overwhelmed by the sheer number of the dying, could no longer offer last rites. The cemeteries overflowed with bodies, leading to mass graves where the dead were tossed unceremoniously, their identities lost to history. In the wake of this horror, the very foundations of society began to crumble. The rigid structure of feudalism faltered as labor shortages gave peasants newfound bargaining power. Religious institutions, once the bedrock of medieval life, found themselves questioned as desperate prayers went unanswered. And as the social order unraveled, a new world began to take shape, one born from the ashes of pestilence and despair. The Black Death was not the first plague to afflict humanity, nor would it be the last. But its impact remains unparalleled. It forced civilizations to rethink medicine, hygiene, and governance. It sowed the seeds of the Renaissance, paving the way for intellectual and cultural transformation. And it left behind a legacy of fear, its specter lingering in the shadows of history, a chilling reminder of the fragility of human existence. In this full documentary-style account, we shall delve deeper into the origins, spread, and aftermath of the Black Death. We will explore its devastating impact on Europe, the social and economic upheaval it caused, and the resilience of those who survived. This is not just a story of death and despair, but also of transformation and rebirth. The echoes of the Black Death still whisper through time, urging us to remember, to learn, and to never again underestimate the power of a microscopic adversary. The story begins, as all great tragedies do, with the first unsuspecting victim and the silent creeping approach of an unseen killer.